Well, uh, it's been quite a while since I last made one of these kinds of videos. I even thought I was never going to do it again. But never mind. You might be thinking, a model of Thomas? Why did I make that? I already work with 3D models. Well, my dear friends, I just something changed of me, I just thought it was a little bit funnier if I actually model to make my models. I just think it makes them more attractive. It makes them more. It just hits different making a model and then making it digitally. It just hits different. Some of you may not agree, but yeah. For those who are worrying, don't worry, the models will still have a place. They will be close-up models. So yeah. And in case you're wondering, well, why don't I buy the Bachman Thomases? Well, yeah, take a guess. Plus, I just wanted something that had my design on it, instead of a mass-produced something. And especially since I will preserve them, either in an art museum or in trusted hands. Cough, Talon and Railway cough. So yeah, without further ado, let's go through the process of how I made Thomas. So this whole deal begins with a playset that I bought for probably Christmas or my birthday, I don't know, back in 2023. And I had this little mogul tender engine that I even had plans of making it a James at first. The set is actually S-scale, in case you're wondering, and I like that idea in replacing my wooden Yahweh converted to S-scale models, because let's be honest, they're just ugly. And that's what I intended to do, and that's what I did. I drew some plans to do it, and in case you don't understand, there's no need to, because me neither. And here's the last result. I did go that far, but yeah, I just lost motivation. It was no longer just doing it for me. So eventually, I just made it into scrap and never thought of it again, and come back into working to my 3D models. But then I gained back the motivation, and here it is. I've secretly been working on it, and although I don't have any pictures of it, I did cut the axles off of the wheels, trying to remove them, assuming that I could just scratch build a new wooden axle later. Big mistake. But let's just say it was hard as fuck. Anyway, I started to draw up the first plans on how I wanted to make my Thomas. Here's a bunch of techniques that you'll probably won't understand, but I do, on how I will make the model. And finally, he originally was going to have a moving wheel and a moving body in general. But I wasn't able to figure out this technique properly. And judging by what I was going to use, a Lego motor, yes, a Lego motor, I think it will be a little bit too big, and I also didn't want it to weight anymore. So yeah, that was dropped. But then again, if you watch the whole video, you'll realize that, yeah, the model really just didn't follow the blueprints. But yeah. Now then, let's get to coding. I first started by adding a masking tape piece on the boiler, just for better measuring on where I would like to cut of the boiler. I was doing all of the cutting at once, and after suffering through all the different pains of the bendy plastic, I was finally able to cut the boiler and the running board, alongside with removing the masking tape, of course. I also intended to sand the boiler, but of course that didn't happen. I would just figure something out later. But I wasn't done with Thomas just yet. I still have the chassis, and I cut it. And then this happens. Yeah, I didn't really knew that the chassis would just break into two pieces, and don't worry, the saw didn't break, it just fell apart. That happened more times a day while I was cutting every single engine. And for some reason I decided to not build everyone else at the same time. Speaking of which, the cutting process is done. So now it's time to talk about the building process. Okay, so first thing first, after I picked up a track, I started to work on the chassis. Now I needed to make sure that it would be kind of perfect in order to fit into the wheels and on the rails. Here's an attempt of me trying to make these wheels work, but god damn it, it did not work whatsoever. I tried to make this work. I tried to make this glue on, but it did not work. I got so mad with this that I ultimately said fuck it. I decided to use some fake cardboards or the wheels for the chassis, just so he can still have 6 more wheels. It wasn't the best, but at the time I thought it was the best that I could do. Anyway, I started to work on the running board, and I must say this is probably my best running board work I ever developed, since every single other running board work was always just shit. But yeah, this is good. Then, after the chassis was done, I glue it to the running board, and now it's this. I don't think he always run the best. His wheels always love to getting stuck into everything, regardless of what I do, but it's fine, I guess. I then used my boiler and then covered it in paper, in blue paper, to make, the more smoother surface. I did make his cab out of scratch building, but I thought that it was too big. So I decided to reduce the height just a little bit, and it looks better. I also cut the tanks in a more E2 shape and made the wheel arches. Now, because of the boiler being a little bit too chubby, I realized that the tanks wouldn't really be the same height that I wanted. It's such a shame, but it's okay. I also glued down the funnel, which technically isn't accurate. It's more accurate to Doc's funnel, but it's fine. I also made some whistles, and then made the buffer housings and some paper clips to make the couplings that you'll see later. I didn't glue the middle wheels from the original engine on the middle, just to make more accuracy, and if I put it on the rails, I think you can barely notice. Okay, so side rod times. I attempted once, it failed. Here's the knobs for the side rods. I attempted again and it failed again. So I just decided to just stick with the Ertl side rods, because that would probably work a little bit better. Which it does, but it kind of sucks that Thomas won't move his side rods anymore. Okay, so with all of that done, it was time for just sculpting some clay bits. I made his buffers, his dome, his windows, and his lamp, alongside with some other important details, and his scratch building was done. I also super glued the buffers just a little bit more to make sure that it won't fall off, since he's an important tank engine. He's shown a lot. He needs to have proper buffers. And now it's time for painting. I first started with the blue, and only the blue. I then painted the running board red and added the black and yellow details alongside with painting some paper yellow for the windows. I also painted the brake pipes and the piece of tape blue. You'll see why for that in a bit. I neglected that detail, not because I forgot, but simply because I thought that I couldn't make it. But I decided that I could make those brake pipes. So yeah. And after they dry, I added them into the model, and I also added the step ladders. And instead of neglecting, I just forgot to add them in general. I then made the windows and added the other brake pipe, and here's that detail. You see, in season 24, Thomas had this little detail in the front that I never neglected adding. So I decided to add it like this. I know it's kind of flat, but no pun intended, but hey, it's the best that I can do. I then made some paint corrections and added some sticks to play as handrails that he also gained in season 24. I then painted them white because I didn't have any silver paint, and also painted the whistles yellow as an undercoat alongside with some black detailing. I then painted it gold with what I assumed it was glitter paint, and I also had to make some corrections in the cab. I then finally painted the running board white. I then opened the cab as well and painted the side doors white. I painted the step ladders blue alongside with adding the doors again and corrected the windows. The next day, I added the window bars in this little square that is accurate to E2s. But then, on the very next day, I made a shocking discovery. Yeah, remember when I said what I assumed it was glitter paint? Yeah, I was wrong. It wasn't glitter paint or just glitter glue. It was just glitter. And if you know how that shit works, it's messy. And of course, it got everywhere. Well, not really, but I knew that it would get everywhere if I didn't do anything about it. But luckily, adding some drops of super glue was able to fix the problem. And then I thought it was a great idea to come back into the idea of making the side rods movable. This was a big mistake and I ended up just wasting time. I don't have any pictures of this because I was in a live stream. But yeah, it was sucks, so I had to remake the side rods all over again. Yuppie. And oh, fuck me, I just remembered that I forgot how to add the footage of him running with wires. Silly old me. He. Yeah, for something that just practically just slides on the rails most of the time, he kinda runs really decently. Yeah, I'm really surprised on how well he can run. Anyway, I started to make some really bad and shitty lining work, and yes, it does have the back lining. I do not like Thomas models who doesn't have back lining. Then I drew his first face, but it was too big. And oh no. Oh no, I couldn't really avoid these little problems, so I attempted to fix it. it didn't work at all because the white didn't match with the paper color. So I just decided to, oh well, let's paint the whole ass face, and then paint the whole ass face gray. And then I decided to add the nose and paint the side rods and those little details on his chassis that not many people talk about actually. And then I finally added his little green. And I finished everything all with some details with a pen. And now it's time for the great reveal. But before, I just need to bring a side note. I did try to make his side rods all over again. This time I tried to use glue. The other I tried to use just screws. And then I used some sticks. So in the following footage, the model will technically be a little bit outdated, but yeah, time for the reveal. So yeah, I made a Thomas. This is my Thomas. He also had a little bit of a different coupling system, which is just wires and tape. But yeah, this is my Thomas. I am honestly kind of proud of him. There is some things that I would like to change, like those side rods, those wheels, and maybe the face. But those are not my priorities. I am just glad that this model is done, especially since he's had been the reason of why so many models have been delayed. Yeah, I needed to build some more models. I have a lot of them in my disposal. But yeah, this is my Thomas. You might be thinking, however, if you came from the original Thomas custom video, but wait, how will you change the expressions if his face is permanent? Because for those who don't know, I used to make my faces, well, removable with more expressions. And well, here's the solution. Yep, I'm trying 2D animation because, sure, why not? And yeah, that's it. Sorry for making an over 17 minutes long video, but yeah, you know, that's life. It took a lot of time to make this video, and the model as well, but I'm finally glad that it's out. And now, if you excuse me, I must finish the rest of the gang. So yeah, have a good evening, good night, I think good day, and bye.